My beloved, tonight the weight you carry sits far beyond your muscles and bones. It rests in that hidden inner room where your effort, your trying, your keep going has quietly lived for so long. You have walked yourself through difficulty after difficulty, and lately it has started to feel like a story written against you, like something is aimed at you personally. You have caught yourself wondering if every delay is a secret judgment, if every door that stays shut is a sign that something is wrong with you, and under all those questions there is a more fragile one you barely dare to speak. Did I mess everything up? Why does it keep feeling like this? How long do I have to keep holding it together? You have worn bravery like a uniform for so many days that even your courage feels threadbare now. You keep replying, you keep showing up, you keep doing what is expected, but beneath your polite answers and steady tone there is a trembling confession: I cannot keep proving my worth by surviving pain. I want you to hear me. I am not hovering over your life with a cold gaze, inventing new sorrows to see how much you can take. I am not stacking obstacles in your path just to watch you strain. I am not requiring you to win my affection through exhaustion. This is not cruelty disguised as destiny, not punishment cloaked in silence. What presses on you right now has not arrived to crush your spirit. What feels like the shaking of everything familiar is not your undoing. Under the shifting ground, something more solid is quietly forming, a steadiness that does not shatter every time the volume of life turns up. You thought you had been singled out for misfortune. You wondered if maybe you had slipped out of favor. But listen with your tired heart, you are not a target. You are being fortified in places comfort could never touch, not because you failed, not because I abandoned you, not because pain itself is holy, but because there are deep places in you that need more than escape routes. They need roots that go down far enough to hold you when what you leaned on begins to tremble. The kind of strength I am growing in you is nothing like the world's costume of toughness. The world worships hardness, imagines strength as never crying, never questioning, never needing to pause. But the strength rising in you is a softer, truer power, the ability to remain tender without coming apart, to acknowledge your limits without drowning in shame, to keep your heart unlocked even after disappointment has knocked on the same threshold again and again. You keep assuming that if a season aches this much, something must be fundamentally wrong with you or your path. Yet there are lives that deepen precisely in the very places that first felt unbearable. Sometimes what looks to you like losing ground is the gentle loosening of what was never sturdy enough to hold you. You leaned hard on other people's applause. You leaned on detailed plans that seemed certain. You leaned on your own capacity to forecast, to control, to prevent harm. And now those supports are wobbling, and of course that terrifies you. When what once held you begins to shake, it feels as if everything trustworthy has turned unreliable. But what is unfolding is not the demolition of your life, it is the unveiling of what can truly bear your full weight. A tree does not grow deep roots by being kept from every gust of wind. Its unseen strength develops as it learns how to stay, how to remain when the sky changes. And you, dear one, are learning how to stay, not perform, not impress, not outrun, but simply remain. There is a quiet difference between being put to the test and being made sturdy. A test stands over you and asks, will you fail? What I am doing in you instead asks, what can be healed, anchored, and awakened through this very moment? I am not enthralled by how close you come to breaking. I am watching, with care, who you are becoming. I am not tallying how many blows you can endure. I am forming in you the grace to stand without frantic fear, to bend without splitting, to rest without accusing yourself of laziness or weakness. You do not yet recognize how much has already shifted. Because your feelings are still tender, you assume nothing has grown. Look again. Once, a single disappointment could persuade you that you were utterly forsaken. Now, Even as tears fall, something in you keeps turning toward light instead of darkness. Once, one unanswered question could send you spiraling into terror. Now you take a longer breath. You do not unravel as quickly. You are beginning to know, deep in your bones, that uncertainty is not the same as rejection. That realization matters more than you realize. I have seen you sitting in crowded rooms, carrying a quiet ache no one else could see. I have watched you complete ordinary tasks while feeling almost empty inside. I have noticed how often you choose kind words for others while speaking harshly to yourself. None of that has slipped past my attention. The sigh you buried. The tears you delayed until the world went to sleep. The brave face that cost you so much energy to wear. I saw every piece of it, and I understood. You do not have to shrink your pain or tidy up your story for me to meet you in it. You owe me no perfect explanation for why this has drained you. You are not required to show up with a polished lesson, a cheerful tone, or a heroic takeaway. Come to me exactly as you are, burnt out, frustrated, half hopeful, half numb, unsure of what you even feel. That is enough. You are enough to be held with gentleness. Part of what has worn you down is not only what happened, but the story you wrote around it. You convinced yourself that delay meant you were discarded. You read setbacks as proof that you were disqualified. You took silence to mean you had somehow slipped beyond reach. But delay is not always a refusal. Silence is not always abandonment. Hardship is not always evidence that you wandered off the right road. Sometimes it is simply the chapter in which deeper foundations are being poured. No glitter, no applause, just quiet construction of things like patience that does not feel like passivity, discernment that can tell what truly deserves your energy and what does not, steadiness that no longer rises and falls with every opinion, every inconvenience, every change in someone else's mood. You have prayed for peace while clinging tightly to control. You have begged for rest while forbidding yourself to stop. You have searched for clarity while giving fear the loudest microphone. Be gentle with yourself here. This is not a scolding, it is a doorway. A stronger heart is not carved out by piling on more self-criticism. It forms when honest truth walks in and shame slowly loses its authority. So hear this clearly. You are allowed to stop treating every hardship as a verdict against your worth. You are allowed to stop reading every closed path as a declaration that you are unlovable or behind. You are allowed to stop imagining that endurance only counts if it feels grand and noble. For you, on certain days, surviving at all has been the bravest act. On some mornings, simply getting out of bed was a quiet leap of faith no one else could witness. On some nights, the holiest thing you did was refuse to abandon your own heart when it was tempting to turn against yourself. Do not belittle the small ways you kept moving. Do not label it weakness because no one celebrated it. A single candle in a dark room does not apologize for its size. It just keeps offering the light it has. And you, dear heart, have been offering what light you could, even when your hands shook. That matters to me, your hesitant yes, your fragmented prayers, your hope that feels worn thin at the edges. Especially that. Strength is unfolding in you, not as noise or spectacle but as depth. It reveals itself when you speak the truth sooner instead of pretending. When you no longer chase every person who misreads you. When you choose to pause before bitterness takes root. When you say, "This hurt me," instead of insisting you are unaffected. When you begin to ask not only, "How do I escape this?" but also, "What is being healed, softened, or freed in me through this?" Whether you recognize it or not, you are not who you once were. You still feel intensely. You still grow weary. You still have more questions than answers. Yet you are less governed by each passing inner storm. There is more space now between what you fear and how you respond, more honesty, more kindness toward yourself, more quiet courage that does not need to shout to be real. I know you longed for relief to arrive sooner. Part of you would have chosen a shorter route, a daylight path without so many shadows, a solution that made sense right away. I do not blame you for that longing. No soft heart asks for extra wounds. No one stands up and says, choose the harder road for me. Your fatigue does not offend me. Your sense that this has been too much does not disappoint me. I am fully aware of the nights you lay awake searching for meaning on the ceiling, the mornings you opened your eyes already tired before the day made any demands, the ongoing inner argument between, keep hoping, and, stop risking yourself. Of course you are exhausted, that tug-of-war has cost you so much. So hear this invitation, you do not need to turn your heart to stone to become strong. You do not need to shut down your feelings to become wise. You do not have to expect the worst as a shield against hurt. Real strength is not born from shrinking your capacity to love, it grows from expanding your ability to remain rooted in love while life stays imperfect and unclear. There are weights you can hold now that would have crushed you once, not because you grew colder, but because you grew deeper. There are conversations you can face now without the same dread. There are endings you can walk through without branding yourself a failure. There are unknown paths you can enter without the frantic need to control every outcome. This is growth, quiet, easily overlooked, but real. And though the path that grew it in you is one you would not have chosen, the work itself is still beautiful. Please, stop calling yourself weak because you needed a hand to hold, because you longed for comfort, because this valley brought you to your knees. Even now, you are learning what can support you when feelings surge and recede. Even now, your soul is practicing how to rest without having every answer settled. Even now, the places fear once ruled without question are loosening their grip. This is not nothing. This is sacred work happening in the unseen layers of you. What if this chapter is not evidence that the universe has singled you out for misfortune, but the slow crafting of an inner steadiness you will one day call a blessing? What if this ache is not here to disgrace you, but to gently pull apart the lies that told you your value depended on being untroubled, endlessly useful, widely admired, or always certain? You have been taught, in 100 subtle ways, to chase what looks impressive. I am focused on what becomes true in you. A quieter center. A voice that speaks more honestly. A way of treating yourself with the same kindness you offer others. A clearer knowing of what is yours to hold and what must be set down. A firmer boundary against what drains your spirit. A softer posture toward your own humanity. Let this sink in, you are not falling apart in the way you fear. You are being reshaped. You still tire. You still cry. You still doubt. But you are learning, piece by piece, how to live from a heart that is both soft and strong, both feeling and grounded, both honest about its wounds and anchored in a love that does not leave. My beloved, I see how often your mind whispers, make it tougher so I'll finally be ready, even while your body and soul are begging for rest. I am not upset that you feel worn out. I am not dismayed that this season has felt like more than you can bear. I have watched you lying awake in the dark, eyes open to the ceiling, searching for a purpose in the pain. I have seen you wake up already exhausted, long before the day asked anything of you. I know the constant inner debate that has been tearing at you. Keep believing. Guard your heart. Take another risk. Never let this hurt you again. Dear one, that invisible battle has cost you more than you realize, so of course you feel empty. Come, pause with me inside this gentle truth. You do not have to become numb to become powerful. You do not have to shut your heart down to gain wisdom. You do not have to brace for disaster just to shield yourself from disappointment. True strength is not forged by making your heart smaller, but by expanding your capacity to stay anchored in love while the world around you remains unfinished and imperfect. Listen, there are burdens you can carry now that would have broken you before, not because you turned to stone, but because you've grown in depth. There are conversations you can face today that once terrified you. There are endings you can walk through now without branding yourself a failure. There are uncertainties you can step into without grasping frantically for total control. This is what growth looks like: quiet, mostly unseen, rarely celebrated, but profoundly real. And though it has come through valleys you never would have chosen, it has carried a beauty of its own. My child, stop calling yourself weak because you reached out for comfort. Stop condemning yourself as a failure because this chapter brought you low. Even here, you are discovering what can sustain you when emotions crash and recede like waves. Even now, your spirit is learning to rest without every answer neatly in place. Even now, the places fear once ruled are becoming less breakable, less fragile. That is not insignificant. That is sacred work unfolding quietly within you. Precious heart, what if this chapter is not evidence that the universe is stacked against you? What if it is the slow shaping of an inner steadiness that you will one day look back on with gratitude? What if this lingering ache is not here to shame you, but to gently loosen every lie that said your worth depended on being unbothered, productive, impressive, or endlessly sure of yourself? You have been trained in countless ways to idolize whatever looks shiny and admirable on the surface. I am far more interested in what is becoming genuine inside you, a more settled center, a truer voice, a kinder way of relating to your own heart, a clearer understanding of which loads are yours to carry and which are not, a stronger refusal to keep giving your energy to what drains you, a softer response to your own humanity. Do not overlook the quiet miracle of becoming a safe place for yourself. Not flawless, safe. No longer treating your own needs as a nuisance. No longer talking to yourself as if harshness could somehow heal you. No longer believing you must suffer endlessly to prove that you deserve tenderness. Not every injury turns into insight overnight. Some wounds need space, stillness, and unhurried grief. Do not wrap a bow around what continues to throb just to make it more acceptable. Do not rush to squeeze an explanation out of something your heart has not yet had time to fully feel. I can dwell with you in what is unresolved. You do not have to dress it up for me. Gentle soul, restoration often moves more slowly than you hoped, not because it is failing, but because deep healing moves carefully, not recklessly. Roots do not sprint, they spread and reach. What I am shaping in you is not flimsy resilience that collapses at the first sign of stress, it is rooted resilience. The kind that can mourn without losing all hope. The kind that can rest without calling it laziness or defeat. The kind that can start again without despising the slow, ordinary pace of becoming. Loved one, this stretch will not always feel this intense. You will not always interpret every delay as a sign that disaster is coming. You will not always wonder whether your struggles mean you have been abandoned or unloved. A gentler climate is forming within you. Not a life free of all challenge, but a heart less terrorized by it. Not a world where nothing cuts or stings, but a more stable soul in the midst of the sting. And when that quiet calm takes deeper root, you will look back with softer eyes. You will recognize that not every unanswered prayer was neglect. Not every pause signaled desertion. Not every breaking was ruin. Some moments were the slow opening of clenched fists. Some pauses were the clearing away of old, choking fears. Some disruptions were strengthening the very part of you that once believed it could never live with uncertainty. My beloved, You have endured far more than you give yourself credit for, and in the enduring you have not only continued, you have become more gentle, more perceptive, more authentic. Pain did not transform you by some instant magic, but it did uncover what still needed care. It revealed where you had drifted away from your own heart. It showed you the supports that could never truly hold you. It pointed out where kindness was missing. It brought you to the threshold where deeper strength could finally take root. Sweetheart, there is no disgrace in needing to be rebuilt carefully and slowly. There is no disgrace in remaining tender while you are becoming strong. There is no disgrace in saying, "This still hurts," while also acknowledging, "I am no longer who I used to be." Both can exist at the same time. Pain can linger and growth can still be happening. Questions can remain, and yet peace can quietly begin to settle deeper within you. You do not have to choose between being honest and being hopeful. Dear one, release yourself from the relentless pressure to interpret every hardship immediately. Some lessons show up only much later. Some experiences never become tidy, yet they still leave a residue of wisdom. Some understandings rise not in the restless hours when fear is the loudest, but in the gentler mornings when your heart has had just a little time to calm. So for this night, lay down the inner accusations. Lay down the belief that you have been singled out for suffering. Lay down the harsh idea that every challenge is a scoreboard measuring how much more you must prove. You do not have to earn gentleness from me. You do not have to navigate sorrow flawlessly to be cherished. You do not have to recover quickly to be seen as faithful. Rest here. I am not trying to convince you that existence is cruel. I am showing you that your center can become steadier than fear. I am showing you that peace is not the removal of every unknown, but the growing assurance that you are held even in the middle of them. I am teaching you that your value does not fluctuate with outcomes. I am showing you that tenderness and perseverance can dwell together inside the same heart. I am showing you that when familiar supports give way, you are not left with emptiness. You are being led toward what is more real, more rooted, more secure. Precious one, I am nearer than your darkest thoughts claim, closer than the loneliness that arrives in the late hours, more stable than the voice that keeps whispering that everything is collapsing, more compassionate than the inner critic that keeps labeling this season as punishment. Let that false story fall away. You are not being tested to your breaking point, you are being lovingly cared for. You are not being measured by how much pain you can tolerate, you are being met in the very places that require strengthening, steadying, and sacred repair. When old panic begins to rise, you do not need to wrestle with it endlessly. You can simply place your hand over your heart and remember this clearer, quieter truth: I am still held. I am still loved. Something enduring is being formed within me. For tonight, that is enough. And remember, rest does not signal that nothing meaningful is taking place. Some of the most significant work unfolds in silence, beneath the surface, beyond anything you can log or prove. So let go where you're able. Unclench your fists. Soften your jaw. Let your shoulders relax. Allow the room around you to be still. You do not have to solve your whole future before sleep comes. You do not need a 10-step plan figured out before morning breaks. All that is asked of you in this moment is this breath, this small acceptance of mercy, this quiet yielding into safe hands. My child, I have not stepped away because the journey wound into confusion. I have not gone quiet because your tears made me uneasy. I have not mistaken your exhaustion for a lack of devotion or desire. I know what it costs to take one more step when your heart feels bruised. I am holding with endless care whatever you no longer have the strength to carry alone. So rest now, not because every why has been answered, not because the path ahead is suddenly clear, but because you no longer need to cling to suspicion where love is already at work. Rest because what runs deepest in you right now is not ruin, but strengthening. As the night settles and the world grows more quiet, let this sink gently into your soul. You are being made more rooted, more spacious inside, more able to live without fear dictating every decision. You are being prepared for steadiness, for gentleness, for a peace that does not hinge on everything being perfect. Sweet soul, I remain beside you in everything unfinished, in the wondering, in the mending, in the gradual becoming. And as you grow still enough to sense it, you may discover that beneath the noise, beneath the strain, beneath all the old fear, a quiet strength is rising within you now. I am here for that. I am here for you. So when sleep arrives, let it find you open. When stillness comes, do not push it away. And know, dear one, that through this long and tender night, you are accompanied, you are being gently rebuilt, and you are deeply loved. To those in this cherished family who have chosen to uplift and support this work, thank you. Your generosity and encouragement make it possible for these messages of hope to continue reaching hearts in need. May the Lord's favor rest upon you, may He guide your every step, surround your home with His peace, and fill your days with quiet assurance and enduring grace.